It is day 2 of the Sean Diddy Combs federal trial. Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, she is one of Combs' many accusers, testifying as a central witness.
Is she ready?
Very ready and confident. Thank you.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend.
They used to call him a music legend, a powerful force in hip-hop, someone who made stars and built empires. But yesterday, that image shattered in court. Cassie Ventura, his ex-girlfriend, gave emotional testimony that shocked everyone. Diddy looked stunned as she described troubling moments from their past, revealing shocking claims.
When she walked in there, Rachel, she had on a brown dress, form-fitting, visibly pregnant, head held high, and did not make any eye contact with the defendant, with Sean Combs. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on to the lighting in the room to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said that she did it because she was 22, 21. She was young. She didn't know any better, and that she wanted to please Sean Combs.
Among other things, the singer is expected to address the 2016 video of Combs attacking her in a hotel when she was his girlfriend. Combs has pleaded not guilty. His attorneys argue the video is evidence of jealousy, not sex trafficking. And now for the first time, jurors are hearing what Cassie has to say about that and other aspects of their 10-year relationship.
For years, Sean Diddy Combs moved through the music world with unmatched power. He didn't just succeed, he dominated. From nothing, he created Bad Boy Records and turned unknown artists into global stars. His influence reached far beyond music. He built businesses in fashion, alcohol, and entertainment. On paper, he was the definition of success, a businessman who transformed hip-hop into a global empire. But all that success came with a carefully built image, the sharp suits, the perfect smile, and the reputation as a mentor and visionary. Now that image is falling apart. Cassie Ventura, his former girlfriend, stepped into a courtroom and began telling a story that shocked everyone. While the world saw glitz and glamour, Cassie claims she was living through something very different. Something dark and painful. Diddy showed up to court looking like the man we all recognize. Calm, confident, surrounded by expensive lawyers, even flashing smiles like he was attending another meeting. But as Cassie spoke, everything changed. Witnesses said his expression shifted, his body language grew tense, and his polished composure began to crack. Within half an hour of her testimony, his confidence faded. He couldn't sit still. He kept adjusting his tie, then his cufflinks, then just his hands. At one point, he started writing and passing notes to his legal team so fast that his lawyer had to tell him to slow down. People in the courtroom saw a man unraveling. One reporter said it looked like someone realizing, maybe for the first time, that they weren't in control of the story anymore. Cassie's words weren't just emotional, they were powerful. And as her testimony continued, it became clear why Diddy couldn't keep his cool. What she was about to reveal could shake the entire music industry and tear down everything he spent decades building.
And at some point in time, she actually had said that she looked forward to the freak-offs. Why did Cassie express looking forward to these said freak-offs?
When the prosecution asked her, was there ever a time that you enjoyed the freak-offs? This is when Cassie got choked up, and she said, I did, but only because I got to spend one-on-one time with Combs, and I really did love him.
And that is speaking to the psychological abuse, in addition to the physical abuse that she potentially experienced.
Yeah, she's definitely laying out someone who was young, who was influenced by wanting to have this record career. She signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Entertainment, led by Sean Combs, and basically describes being enamored by Sean Combs, loving him, not knowing about certain things sexually, and him sort of telling her, teaching her about that. And what you hear is someone that was young and she even said, you know, I was young, I was naive, I didn't know any better. But she's really telling the story of someone who thought she was going to be with someone in this music industry that was going to help her career, that cared about her, but quickly learned after the freak-offs that wasn't the case. And what I thought was also interesting is she said that after that first freak-off, she said she felt dirty. she didn't want to do it. And when she brought up the idea of having a conversation about the freak-offs in an email, which the jurors saw, she said she backpedaled in the email because Combs responded by saying, "I know, you don't want to do it." And she said, "Oh, no, well, it's not that." But that was the beginning. That was in 2010, where she brings up in an email that she wanted to have a conversation about this. And in her words, she didn't want to do it, but she felt like she had to do it.
Well, Diane, prosecutors have wasted no time getting right into the alleged abuse that Cassie Ventura says she endured for years. Ventura telling jurors, quote, "He would bash my head, knock me over, drag me, kick me, stomp me in the head when I was down." She also got into the nature of those so-called freak-offs, saying that they involved hiring an escort and they performed under the direction of Combs, saying that they happened so frequently it eventually became a job for her to set them up. Ventura said she did not feel she had much of a choice but to participate, that she feared that Combs would retaliate or potentially blackmail her if she did not. And she's had at times to she's taken deep breaths, pausing her testimony, Combs appearing to be listening pretty passively with his hands in his lap at the defense.
When Cassie Ventura stepped into the courtroom to testify, everything fell completely silent. People had been waiting for this moment, but no one, especially Diddy's legal team, seemed ready for what she was about to say. After years of silence, years of keeping painful memories to herself, Cassie finally spoke up, and she didn't hold back. She began by telling the court how she first met Diddy at 19. He was already a wealthy and powerful figure in the music world, while she was just a young model hoping to become a singer. From the beginning, the power gap between them was huge, and according to Cassie, he used that power to control her life. At first, she said, the control was subtle. He wanted to know where she was all the time and would randomly show up when she was out. Then it escalated. She claimed he began threatening her music career, saying he'd stop her songs from being released if she didn't do what he wanted. She also said he blocked her from working with other artists if he felt jealous or insecure. What shocked the courtroom most was when Cassie testified that Diddy had installed tracking software on her phone. She said he would often call her just minutes after she arrived somewhere, knowing her exact location. Over time, she said, he isolated her, cutting her off from friends and anyone who might support her leaving him. During this testimony, Diddy visibly lost his composure. He kept shaking his head, talking to his lawyers, and making faces that the jury couldn't ignore. The judge had to tell him to calm down more than once. Then came the turning point. Cassie handed her lawyer her phone, and messages between her and Diddy were displayed in front of the court. His reaction was pure disbelief. These messages included alleged apologies for violent behavior and threats to ruin her career if she ever spoke out. They directly went against what Diddy's public team had said about him for years, but that was only the beginning. Cassie went on to describe the alleged physical abuse she experienced. The courtroom fell silent as she recalled being thrown into walls and pushed downstairs. One of the most disturbing parts was when she described Diddy allegedly choking her until she nearly passed out, only stopping when she stopped moving. People in the courtroom were visibly shaken. One juror wiped away tears, while another couldn't even look at Diddy. Even the most experienced reporters admitted they weren't prepared for the intensity and emotion of Cassie's words. And yet, this was all building up to one final story. The hotel incident that would soon explode this case wide open.
To weather all of these questions. And what's going to be interesting to watch is, the defense from the very start in their opening statement said that she chose to be there. So I'm going to be curious to see how she responds to questions about, was this her choice or did she feel like she had to do all of these things?
I think what made Cassie emotional is having to describe the details of the freak-off and why she did it. When she talked about wanting to do it to please Sean Combs, that's when she broke down. Up until that point, she had just been answering the questions. She's a little soft-spoken at times, but that's when she got emotional. When she had to answer the question about if she enjoyed it, that's when she broke down because she said, I enjoyed being with Sean Combs. And she says, I did it because it made him happy.
What did the expressions of the jurors look like?
The jurors are laser focused on what Cassie has to say. And that's to be expected, right? Because she is the person who will likely be on the stand, according to attorneys, for 2, maybe 3 days. She's the one that was in the relationship with Sean Combs for over 10 years. So she's got a lot to say, and she's just getting started.
Just how important is Cassie's testimony to the prosecution?
I think it really connects the dots, Rachel. When you look at that initial indictment and what's being alleged, she really is the person that has probably the most information about this idea that the prosecution says, which is creating a criminal enterprise for Sean Combs' sexual desires. Something else that the jurors saw today that sort of connects it back to this alleged criminal enterprise are 7 photos of people that were very close to Sean Combs, one even his former chief of staff. And these were all people that Cassie Ventura was able to name and explain the functions in terms of what they did: security, driver, chief of staff, someone that handled financials. So it's showing that she knew some of these people, again, because she was with him around.
I thought I was going to die that night, Cassie said softly, her voice barely audible. The entire courtroom leaned in, hanging onto every word. She was talking about a terrifying moment that had never been made public before. This wasn't something the media, fans, or even the gossip sites had known about. It had stayed hidden for years. Cassie explained that she kept quiet out of fear for her safety, her career, and the belief that no one would believe her. Over someone as powerful as Diddy, but now, sitting on the stand, she was done staying silent. According to her, it all started after an industry party at the Four Seasons Hotel. She said Diddy got furious after seeing her talking to another music executive. His smile disappeared, and Cassie claimed he grabbed her arm so hard it left bruises. She said he whispered threats in her ear while smiling for others at the event. The most disturbing part? Cassie said he dragged her through the hotel lobby to the elevator while she cried and tried to pull away. Hotel security noticed, but once the guard recognized Diddy, he simply asked if everything was okay. When Diddy said yes, the guard left. He didn't even ask if I was okay, Cassie told the court. Then Cassie's lawyer showed the jury photos she took the next morning: bruises on her arms, a busted lip, and red marks on her neck. These were blurry selfies, taken in a bathroom mirror. She said she took them because she knew people might not believe her. Diddy's lawyers tried to block the photos from being shown, but the judge allowed them. The jury's response was powerful. One woman covered her mouth in shock while 2 men turned their heads away. Everyone in the room could see the damage. Cassie then described how Diddy allegedly threw a champagne bottle at her, missing her by inches, and wrecked the hotel room in a violent outburst. She said he wouldn't let her leave for 2 days, took her phone, and threatened her if she called for help. As she finished, all eyes turned to Diddy. His reaction in that moment would define everything, from the outcome of the trial to the future of his legacy.
Now, this was not coercion. This was consensual. We know that Cassie started out with Sean Combs as an early person, with someone who is trying to get her career started, and he was going to help her. That's what the defense is going to say, that she was starting out and wanted someone to support her. They did their first record deal together. That's something I think the defense is going to focus on, and had it not been for Sean Combs, she wouldn't be where she is right now. The prosecution obviously is saying he was in control. It may have started out as a consensual. It may have started out with her being excited about seeing him, but ultimately he took control of that relationship. He took control of her career. This is their key witness, and she's on that stand trying to explain all of the charges that the prosecution wants to hit home with that jury.
No, there was a moment early on when Cassie mentioned Dallas Austin, who she called a friend, who's a producer. So I don't know if that's someone that we're going to hear from. We know that there were pictures shown to prospective jurors that are well-known celebrities, you know, Kanye West, Kid Cudi, Lauren London. We don't know, though, how they fit yet into why they were even asked, do you know these people? Are you familiar with them?
So the prosecution is questioning Cassie right now, still questioning her.
The defense hasn't even got a chance to, I mean, that might change based on the timing, but, you know, because she's such a key witness, it's likely that she will be on that stand the rest of the day. We learned that Cassie referred to him as Pop Pop, and Sean Combs would refer to her as CC. The prosecution says, what does CC stand for? She said Cassie Combs.
What kind of witness is Cassie coming off as to the jurors?
I think naturally when you look at her visually, people see that she's pregnant and looking like she's due any day now. So they might, have empathy, sympathy for her in that way, but we don't really know. We know that they've been instructed to be fair and impartial. As to what type of witness she's coming off as, she's describing someone that she was, someone she said that was trying to figure out who she was at that time and who she was allowed to be. Now you're looking at somebody that's almost 40 years old, totally different person, but even in describing what was going on at her at that time, taking drugs, trying to please Sean Combs, she's really just sort of laying out the case for her not having a lot of control. So I think that's the takeaway. This is someone who is making it very clear that at that particular time in her life, she says she did not have any control really over what she wore, what she did, who she was having sex with. She's a different person now. But I think when she talks about those details and even reflecting on them for herself, as we saw today, she broke down in that courtroom.
It was a moment that nobody in the courtroom will ever forget. Diddy, the man known for his calm, polished image, completely broke down in front of everyone. The cool and collected persona he had built over decades vanished in seconds, and what was left behind shocked everyone in the room. For years, Diddy was seen as untouchable. He always appeared in control, smooth with his words, and never showed weakness. But as Cassie's testimony grew more serious and painful, that perfect image began to fall apart. Court reporters who had covered many celebrity trials said they had never seen anything like this before. Diddy, once the confident and powerful figure, now looked helpless and scared. As the day went on and Cassie shared more disturbing stories, Diddy seemed to shrink in his seat. His lawyers tried to calm him, one even placed a hand on his arm, and another passed him a note that said, "Stay calm," in all caps. But it wasn't working. Things got worse when Cassie mentioned an incident at Diddy's house in the Hamptons. In a sudden outburst, Diddy slammed his hand on the table so hard that it echoed throughout the courtroom. The judge immediately paused the session and warned him, "Mr. Combs, if you can't control yourself, I will have you removed." For a second, it looked like he might be kicked out of his own trial. Throughout Cassie's time on the stand, Diddy shook his head and quietly mouthed, "That's not true," every time she revealed something damaging. It was clear he wasn't thinking about how the jury was watching his every move. One courtroom observer said it looked like a man who was used to controlling everything, suddenly realizing he couldn't control this moment. What really shook the room was when Cassie spoke about threats. She said Diddy had warned her not to speak out and even threatened her family if she did. Then, something unexpected happened. She revealed she had audio recordings of him making those threats. As her lawyer played one of the recordings, Diddy exploded. He stood up and shouted at Cassie, "You know that's not how it happened." His legal team had to physically pull him back into his seat. It took 3 attorneys to hold him down as he tried to talk over the recording. The judge quickly called for a break, but the damage was already done. Everyone in the courtroom saw it. The man who built a career on being untouchable had just lost control in front of the world, but it didn't stop there. Cassie had been saving evidence for years, messages, emails, photos. She stored them in different places so they couldn't be erased. Then she dropped another bombshell. She had messages from celebrities who had seen Diddy's behavior with their own eyes. These weren't small names. They were people from his inner circle. The courtroom went completely silent. Cassie shared a message from a well-known rapper who texted her after a party. "You okay? What I saw tonight wasn't right. You can stay at my place." A female pop star had written, "I've known him for 15 years. I've never seen him act like that. Please call me." But the most shocking message came from a longtime producer who had worked with Diddy for decades. He had written, "I can't be around this anymore. I told him to get help. Call me when you're safe." These messages directly went against Diddy's claims that nobody had ever seen anything. Now the court knew that wasn't true. People had seen it, and some had tried to help Cassie. Then came Diddy's own texts. Screenshots were shown of him seemingly admitting guilt. "I'm sorry about last night. You know how I get when I drink. It won't happen again," another said. Whatever you need to make this right, new car, new apartment, just name it. One thread appeared to show a payoff attempt. My lawyer can write it up tomorrow. $2 million, clean break. You don't talk about anything from the past 5 years. As these messages were read aloud, something unusual happened in the gallery. Several people who had come with Diddy that morning, members of his entourage, began quietly leaving the room. One by one, they slipped out, no longer able to watch. By the time Cassie finished her testimony, Diddy sat nearly alone, surrounded. Only by his lawyers. He had walked into court that morning like a king. But by the end of the day, he looked like a man whose entire world had started to fall apart. Cassie Ventura didn't just share her story. She may have changed Diddy's future forever. The audio recordings, the texts, the witnesses, they all painted a picture that's hard to forget. Now, the question isn't whether he'll win the case, it's whether his image and reputation can ever recover from what was revealed in that courtroom.